Welcome to another video, guys. Today we're gonna be talking about 10 mistakes you need to stop doing if you wanna hit Legend in Hearthstone. If you have been grinding for months or years and still haven't hit Legend, then maybe you're doing some of these mistakes that are holding you back. So in this video I'm gonna do my best to pinpoint what you should stop doing and how you should start playing the game for better results. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, a like and a subscribe would be awesome. And don't forget you can also hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Now, let's get into the video.
You are not prepared!
The first mistake you definitely need to work on is mismanaging your mulligan phase. The mulligan phase is basically the way you actually ensure you're gonna have stuff to do in your first few turns. So definitely you need to be treating it as such. Depending on the deck you're playing, your mulligan phase can definitely differ, and it can also change up depending on the deck you're playing against. If you're facing an opponent that is expected to have a lot of early game boards, well, maybe you're gonna be holding on to removals. If you're against a passive opponent, you're probably gonna wanna develop the board faster, and so on and so forth. And it definitely matters if you're going first or second, because if you're going first, yes, you're gonna be the first one on the board, and it is expected from you to be the aggressor, or how I like to call it, the one who's gonna be asking the questions, and in that case the opponent is gonna be the one who has to answer them because he will be second to play. Being first definitely gives you an advantage, because you will be the one with more mana, you will be the one that's doing the things first, but you're also getting a disadvantage because you're gonna have one card less and you're not gonna have the coin. But usually, whoever goes first is the one who's gonna be winning, because it's such a huge advantage. And that is especially true in the mirror matchups for the most part. If you're going second, like I said, it is expected of you to be the one who has to be answering what the opponent is doing, so in that case you could be holding on to a little bit more removal depending on the matchup and stuff like that. A great place to be looking for stats about the mulligans would be HS Replay, and especially the HS Replay Premium feature. Honestly, I really don't enjoy playing Hearthstone without having access to this thing nowadays, because it gives you so much extra information and you can be doing a lot better in the game. Like, look at this. Here we have detailed stats for when you're going first, and you can see what people have been holding on to. You can also see what people have been winning with if they actually had it in the mulligan. And we can also go for the when you're going second part, and again, see what the stats are showing. And as I said, going second does indeed give you a lot less win rate. Like, look at this. 68, 68, 62 is the last green, whereas on the coin, we're talking about 47-ish. So yeah, it definitely is a pretty big handicap any way you slice it. So yeah, if you want to be improving your mulligan phase, definitely either watch guides about the deck you're going to be playing, or go down to HS Replay and check out their cool stats. Some of them are actually free, but for $5 per month you can definitely be getting a lot more out of this website. The second mistake you could be doing is playing the game without a deck tracker. Honestly, playing Hearthstone without a deck tracker is such a huge handicap, and honestly most people are already playing with a deck tracker, so you really should not be shooting yourself in the foot, especially if you're trying to climb. I know some people brag about playing the game without a deck tracker and they think they're doing the most they could in the game even without it, but honestly, any way you slice it, you're just gonna have way more time to be thinking. If you have a deck tracker, you're gonna be able to track so much more, and all around you're just gonna have much better results with the help of it if you know how to use it, and especially if you actually set it up properly. For me, Hearthstone deck tracker is definitely the best deck tracker you could be using, and it's pretty simple to set up, and you're also gonna be supporting the channel if you download it from my link in the description. But if you guys have noticed, I have been recommending deck tracker far before I actually got sponsored by them, so this is definitely not a biased opinion. I have been using deck tracker for the past 10 years and I have been loving every second of it. The deck tracker is just super good, and you could be getting so much more out of it if you know how to set it up properly, so I definitely advise you to check out my detailed guide about how you can be getting the most out of deck tracker. And lately we have been actually getting some more very cool new features in the deck tracker, so I'll probably be doing an updated guide about this very soon. But yeah, playing with a deck tracker simply is just gonna be a lot more helpful for you. You're gonna be able to keep track of what cards you're having, what cards you still haven't drawn. You're even gonna be able to see the chance of you top decking that one card in your deck. You're gonna have a much better time tracking what the opponent is holding onto their hand. You're gonna be able to track what they have played, so you're gonna have a better idea of what cards they still have left in their hand or their deck. It's gonna help you big time when it comes down to secrets. And yeah, there's just so much more new features out there. Like one of the features most people are actually not using is the damage counters, both for you and the opponent, and with the help of those you're gonna have much better time at actually pinpointing lethal super quickly, and you're also gonna likewise always be able to pinpoint if the opponent is setting up lethal against you, so you have a much better time of actually having a chance of playing around it. The next big mistake would be playing too fast. I know it's pretty fun throwing cards as soon as your turn starts, but trust me, if you slow down your plays just by 5 seconds, you're gonna have much better time of actually pinpointing much better plays, and you're gonna have time to actually think what your opponent is trying to do, what your deck is trying to do, and all of the stuff in between, so you can actually get much better results. We have all been guilty of playing the game way too fast and boasting about how good we are at the game, but I believe I'm not alone when I say I remember so many times where I started throwing cards and mid-botch play I realized I could have been doing something much better, which if I did take the 3 extra seconds of thinking, I would have seen and actually pivoted into that much better play. Nobody is safe from playing too fast in Hearthstone, but if you just take the time and really try to think, is this really the best thing you could be doing in that turn, you're gonna start seeing much better lines you could be taking, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna start seeing much better results very fast. Which leads to the next mistake, which is poor sequencing in your turns. What I mean by poor sequencing is basically the order in which you do things in Hearthstone. A lot of the time when I'm coaching people, I see them do a very big mistake, or at least they're trying to do a very big mistake, which is when the turn starts, the first thing they start thinking about is going face with what they already have on the board. And honestly, that is probably the worst thing you could do at the beginning of your turn. What you want to be doing during your turn is actually figure out what you're going to be doing that turn and in what order to actually maximize your chances of success. Generally, the first thing you want to be doing when the turn starts is deciding how much mana you're going to be spending on what. After you've decided how much mana you're going to be spending, then you start deciding how are you going to get yourself extra information first before you lock yourself into that play you've already figured out. And the way you get more information in Hearthstone usually is by card drawing, by discovering, or by triggering a random effect, be it a death rattle or something along those lines. And after that random information came, you want to be re-evaluating your play and decide if this still really is the best use of your mana. So the last one and this tip really go hand in hand, because you are going to need a little bit more time of actually figuring out what you want to be doing with your mana, and then you want to sequence it in the best possible way for your chances of success. So yeah, to keep it simple, decide what you're going to be doing with your mana. If you're going to be drawing or discovering, do that first, see what it is, reevaluate if it's still the play, and only then start slapping with your minions. Which leads me to the next mistake, which is bad understanding of how you should be addressing the board or your turn in general. Like I said, some players really like starting off the turn with doing what they can from the board instead of actually looking at their hand. But guys, your hand is there to actually help you do things on the board or for the opponent's face or heal yourself, so please have a better understanding of how you should be addressing your turns, because that's the whole point of your hand. Like, your hand is a bunch of resources which you could be using to actually deal with the board. A lot of the times when I'm coaching people, the first thing they do is they tell me, I'm gonna attack this minion with that minion because I have a 3/3 and that's a 5/3, and yeah, that's a great value trade, but there's also 5 more free drops on the board and you have a 3 damage AoE in your hand, so why are we trading with minions when you can just spend that mana, clear the whole board, and actually go face with that 3 damage? So yeah, this is a bit more of a newbie mistake, but I have been seeing Diamond Legends do these more often than not, so I really believe it is exactly a tip I should be giving you in this video, because after all, we're talking about how to reach Legend. Mistake number 7 is overreacting with your removals or not respecting the opponent's board. A lot of the time, when you're playing control decks especially, you could go into the habit of always removing the opponent's board as soon as they build something mediocre or at least somewhat respectable, and yeah, you do have tons of removals with your control deck, but they're not infinite. So a lot of the time you could actually be holding back a little and actually let the opponent develop a little bit further, also known as overextend, and that way you could be getting a lot more out of your removals without risking too much yourself. So yeah, if you're in a play like that where you know you will be going for a removal really soon, maybe try to bait out the opponent to give you a little bit more for your removal, and in the meantime just do something like draw cards, gain armor, put down a dormant minion or a location, that kind of stuff. Basically spend mana without actually playing into your own removal, because if you know you're gonna be doing a big delete, like let's say Pyro plus Poisonous or Corpse Explosion or Brawl, well, there's not really much point of you developing too much, so instead you could be playing something like Ancient of Yore on the board so you can be drawing a card and gaining armor for a couple of turns, and next turn that idiot is still gonna actually survive whatever you throw at him because he's still gonna be dormant. And the second half of this mistake is underestimating the board, which is quite the opposite basically. Like, if you know you're not gonna be removing something for the opponent for quite a while, it's probably gonna be a good idea to actually respect that minion early, because even something like a 1-mana 3/3 from a priest, if that thing sticks on the board for 5 turns, well, that's basically half your life, because that's gonna be 15 damage across 5 turns. So definitely ask yourself, could you actually be leaving that minion on the board for too long? If you do, what's that gonna do for you? Because yeah, in some cases you could be going for a face race, but if the opponent actually ends up killing your minion that could have killed the opponent's minion, and you don't have a way to kill it back, well, yeah, that's gonna be a lot of damage across several turns for you. Mistake number 8 is also from a similar nature, but this time from your side, which would be overextending into AoE. Overextending is pretty easy in Hearthstone, especially nowadays, because you could be doing so much in a single turn nowadays, it's not even funny. Like, the mana cheat situation really is crazy in Hearthstone right now, and in some cases you really need to be exercising some self-control not to be throwing every single thing you could have been throwing, and actually leave yourself with a potential refill if the opponent can actually clear you. In some cases you really need to be pacing yourself and actually bait out a few removals from the opponent before you really commit, because if you really throw everything on the board as soon as you can and the opponent has a single removal that deals with the whole thing regardless, well, you basically played yourself and you cost yourself the refill potential. So please, even if you can throw too much, ask yourself, is the opponent capable of actually clearing this easily? And if he is, well, maybe hold back a bullet or two for the next turn, so you can actually fight another day. Mistake number whatever, I'm pretty sure I already botched the numbering of these mistakes, not gonna lie, is gonna be tunnel visioning into a single game plan instead of keeping an open mind. Tunnel visioning in Hearthstone is a real problem, and I have noticed myself doing that quite often if I gotta be completely honest. And yeah, it's very easy to slip into such a situation where you have a plan of how you want to be winning that game and you always pursue that plan no matter what. But in Hearthstone, a lot of things happen. A lot of random things get discovered nowadays, a lot of random things happen nowadays, so you definitely need to be keeping an open mind of how you could be winning the game, because every deck has several different ways of actually winning, even those combo decks. Like, I keep using this example from back when I was starting out streaming back in the day, and back then I really enjoyed playing Malagos combo druid, and literally I always tried to kill the opponent with the Malagos combo, which was after turn 9, 10, 12. So yeah, you can imagine I wasn't winning that much against aggro decks. But decks like this, they really have several different gears. Like, you could tempo, you could just not die, you could just remove everything the opponent throws at you, that kind of stuff. So yeah, after I had a session with a Bulgarian professional player back in the day, he really opened my eyes to all the possibilities I could have had with that deck, and I started winning much more with it because I had an open mind and I knew what I could have been doing all along against the different matchups. So yeah, don't lock yourself into a single playstyle with a single deck, because no matter how slow your deck is, sometimes you might actually have to be the aggressor and actually push for tempo and stuff like that. For instance, right now we have Dollhouse Druid, which is another great combo deck, and that's another great example of a deck where you do not need to be always killing your opponent with Alonius or something like that. So yeah, please keep an open mind about things like this and be creative on how you could be playing out your game. Mistake number 9, I think, would be missing lethals and not actually lethal checking when you're supposed to. Again, I'm guilty of this one. Even recently I think I did a pretty botched play missing lethal when I was not supposed to with Space Death Knight, was it? So yeah, missing lethal is definitely a big problem, and it will indeed cost you games when it's not supposed to. Again, Deck Tracker has a great way of actually tracking damage for you in order for you not to be missing lethals, but sometimes the lethals are a little bit more creative than that, and they do involve you cracking open things like Shallow Drasil, drawing into it, discovering maybe, that kind of stuff. But yeah, you definitely need to be doing the lethal check. Depending on your deck, it might be even as soon as turn 4 or 5, and you could also be planning for 2-turn lethal and stuff like that, because some decks just don't heal, they don't gain armor, so your damage is gonna be sticking. So if you're something like a hunter, maybe hero powering on turn 4 will indeed allow you to actually lethal on turn 5 and that kind of stuff. So definitely do your best to actually track the amount of damage you could be dishing out, and be mindful about the things your opponent could be doing against you in order to actually push that carrot away from you, especially when you're planning out for 2-turn lethals and stuff like that. And the last mistake on this list is not knowing the meta. Not knowing the meta really is half the game lost, guys. Like, if you know what your opponent could be dishing out against you, you already won half the battle. This way you're gonna have a much better time figuring out what the opponent could be throwing at you, you're gonna have a much better understanding what turns you need to be careful and mindful of in order not to play into some of their removal, and you're also gonna have a much better time of actually putting a kink in your opponent's plan if you know what they're actually trying to do. So please take the time to actually learn the meta, be it from hsreplay.net or from my top 5 videos and so on and so forth, and that really is gonna help you big time into actually knowing both what you should be playing with as well as what you're playing against. HS Replay actually have updated their visualization in their meta tab, and now we have A tier, B tier, C tier decks and that kind of stuff, so you can really see quickly what the situation is on ladder right now. This is from Diamond to Legend for the last 3 days, but I always try to take it a step further with my top 5s and really see what the best decks are, and I do my best to give you mulligans, guides, all of that good stuff for those decks, and I even go another step further and go through every single working archetype for each individual class, so you really know what the full picture is. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and if you do and want me to do more like these, do let me know in the comments. Don't forget you can support the channel by downloading HS Deck Tracker from my download link, and drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you found it helpful. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.